Hello, besties. I just got out of the shower before I started this, so thank you for your patience. Hello, happy Friday. It is late today, but I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to need your guys' help because I'm going to play some lo-fi in the background while we do this live, and I want to make sure that the music is not overpowering my voice. So, turn this shit on. That is quite loud. So, how's that? How are we feeling? Hey, bestie. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad. Yes. Hello, Bree. Welcome. Welcome. I'm so glad that I'm right on time. Everybody say thank you, Samaje, for gently prodding me to go live because I forgot yesterday after I broke down and got emo with y'all the other night. And then today I had my mind on other things, but I'm lightly caffeinated. And so what better use of my energy than to come on here and read some cards or read literally anything. Read you a bedtime story, whatever it is that you guys need from me. But first, let me know about the volume of the music. Can you hear it? Is it too loud? Is it not loud enough? Is it neighbor appropriate? Yay, I'm so glad you're here, Deb. Hello. I need to talk to y'all in my nighttime voice. In my evening Friday night slow jams voice. Okay, I'll turn it up a little bit more. How about now? Oh, you know what? I think I have background noise turned off. Hold on, let me see here. Oh, I forgot to stream in full high definition again. Shit. Let me see here. Audio. Now you can probably hear it, huh? I love that all of y'all are actually saying thank you. Hey, bestie. Yes, thank you, Samaje. Thank you, Samaje. Very good. Okay, I'll turn it up. Well, honestly, this is probably fine because you only need to hear it when I'm not talking. Oh, staticky. Well, I don't like that. You also might be hearing my computer fan too, now that I'm thinking about it. Hold on, we're gonna get this right. Oh, that's why. I need this to be on there. Okay. How about now? Yes, the fan. The fan. I wonder if I do this. You should read an artist. We're just doing a little troubleshooting here. If you guys just joined before I read cards, I'm trying to set the mood. You know, Friday evening vibes with some nice Ian Ewing radio, lo-fi in the background, without too many other distracting noises. So it'll calm down here in a minute, but yeah, it could be breathing hard. I will ask y'all while I'm doing this, do you want mini readings or do you want a collective read? I'll let y'all decide. I'm open to either because I don't have a particular topic. I'm always curious what the cards have to say, but if you guys feel like y'all want some mini readings, let me know. I'm happy to do that for y'all. I have the energies. All right, let me check one more thing. The audio. Okay, that should be good. I'm gonna leave it. If it gets distracting, just tell me. Oh, that worked. Okay, period. Okay. Well, yeah, welcome. Don't hear the fan. Perfect. The mic, I guess, figured out which noises to pick up and which ones not to pick up. So just to clarify, music is good, not overpowering, but it's in the room with us, and you can hear it when I'm not speaking. If y'all like it, I love it. It's such a good deck. It really is. I know. It's funny because I have the Gentle Tarot also, but this deck just hits. It's very Saturn for me. It just tells the truth. Says exactly what you need to know, whether you want to hear it or whether you don't. I like it personally. It suits my style. It's very clear. Can't make any mistakes. Oh, let me do one more little spray here. Clear the space for the girlies. All right, y'all. I would like to just channel and see what the sky needs us to know, what spirit needs us to know. What do we need to hear? Oh. I think that'll work because I also don't want to be yelling. All right. So what I'm gonna do is it distracting? I turned it down just a tiny bit because it was kind of loud for me as well. It needs to be like elevator music. Ambiance, if you will. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Let's get into these cards. Let's just do a general. I think a general is proper for the tone of the evening. It's a bit late. I love a good shuffle. Just love a good shuffle. I need to remember next time to go live in 4K while I have this little bit of an upgrade. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to use this service, the professional version, the advanced version, and pay for it on my business account, or if I'm just going to try a different one. I know Jada uses Ecamm also, and it might be a little bit better. I have a 20-hour limit, which would be fine whenever I'm not challenging myself to go live every day. 20-hour limit per month, but I already met that limit because I've been running my mouth. So but I have unlimited for at least a week. And a few other things like getting to add my logo instead of the stupid StreamYard duck. It's not the duck's fault that it looks that way, but this is about me. Okay. All right. Calling on my elevated and healed ancestors, spirits, spiritual court, and the energy of the universe and the astrology of the moment. My mercurial besties and I would like to know What wisdom, what insight, what message do you have for us right now? What do we need to hear? Ah, what should we talk about? Ooh, child, hold on. They talking to me. All the cards is jumping out. 1 second. Liv, is the music better? Um, yeah, just looking for a little collective message for me and the girlies, the besties. Girlies, gender expansive. Perfect. And if you haven't already, please like the video. Let YouTube know it's on and popping. All right. Let's get a nice little 3-card spread and see what the vibes are. There's a very fun split that I just did. So our spread for tonight, I know I'm really edging you guys right now. Our spread for tonight is, oh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This might be a little bit challenging for me. All right, friends, we have the Hierophant, the Hierophant, Hierophant. I like Hierophant, but Hierophant. We've seen this recently too, so that's interesting. We have a new player, 6 of Pentacles. Isn't she so cunty? In her emerald suit, period. Well, it's a black suit, but the shirt underneath is emerald. And 3 of Wands, another recent player. So some familiar energies, and our card on the bottom today is Temperance. Back again. This guy has been following us around a little bit, if you've noticed. It was on me and Samaje's live. It was on one of the other spreads that I did recently. Must be something we need to know about Temperance. And I find that interesting because we do have planets in Libra right now. I think we have one. No, we don't have one of each element occupied. Or unless the moon is in Leo now. Does anybody know? Let's look. Let's see if we have a full elemental spread right now. No, not quite. No fire in the sky currently, but it is on the way. It'll be there tomorrow. All right. So these cards. This is just a general message. It's not in Leo just yet. We're at 28 degrees. Well, here in where I'm at, it's at 28 degrees Cancer. So not quite, but it is on the way. It'll be there in the next little bit. So yeah, I mean, if you want to see a little transit moment as well, I don't know if y'all can actually see that, but this is where everybody at. And of course it's flipped, so maybe y'all can't really see that, but we got everybody except for fire right now. All right, well, let's start with our context. Like I said, Temperance. Temperance has something to do with what's coming up for me is like mixing things together that don't usually go together. or mixing things together that would usually extinguish each other or combust one another, or that for whatever reason they just don't fit usually, but for whatever reason in this particular time period, circumstance, it is working together. It is alchemizing. It is maybe coming together to form something new that otherwise wouldn't exist, because why would we think to put them things together? In what universe do those two things actually mesh and create something worth having? Yeah, Samaje agrees. They don't belong together. Temperance also talks about moderation. So there's something about not overdoing it one way or the other, which, again, speaking to this theme of alchemy and harmony. I prefer the word harmony to the word balance, because balance implies that things are equal. And I don't necessarily think things need to be equal in order for them to blend. It's like cooking with a recipe or baking with a recipe. The recipe is very intentional and exact. And you need just the right amount of all of these different things to come together to create, to bake the cake, so to speak. You don't need equal parts of everything. You need specific amounts of each thing. And you need them all to come together in order to create something new. So this is giving a little bit of Libra trine Aquarius. So we'll sit with that. Let's see where the rest of the cards take us. This is our context. So we'll say in high level, Temperance right now is representing mixing things together that usually don't go together, but every ingredient has its role, has its place, no matter how big or small. They're all necessary towards the larger goal. Interesting. I've never really read Temperance like that before. So, all right, let's see what the rest of these cards are talking about. So whenever I do 3-card spreads, as you might know, I like to do either a past, present, future, or situation, obstacle, solution, or sometimes they tell a story that builds on each other. I usually don't decide until I start reading the cards how they can play out, but for anyone who's curious, that's kind of my process for 3-card spreads. So let's start with the Hierophant. So 2 majors in the spread. The Hierophant is about tradition. Tradition, it can be about getting a lot of words like process, structure, expectations. It feels very systemic right now, which is interesting, but it's usually representative of some kind of institution or higher authority or higher power that some kind of a higher power situation or authority figure or traditional way of doing or being or thinking about things, especially because, you know, it is a religious figure noted on the card. And I think the Hierophant too sometimes can talk about trust, which is interesting because in order to kind of, or rather than trust, actually, I'll say faith, because I think there's something a little bit different between faith and trust. I think trust feels a little bit more like you might have an objective reason or an emotional reason to believe something or to have certainty around truth. But faith is kind of like, faith I feel like leans into uncertainty a little bit more, because there's a belief that there's something bigger, something outside of us, something larger, some unforeseen or some unseen force, I guess, that is going to pull through, is going to pull things together in a way that even if we don't understand it or didn't see it coming, we believe in it, like we trust it, ironically. So making me think about faith. It's weird that this kind of feels like, I don't want to talk about politics, but it feels a little bit political. feels a little bit political. But I don't know. I'm going to shelf that in my brain for now. But yeah, thinking about this card as representing faith in particular, and faith being like a belief in the unseen or belief in the unknown, maybe. It's like a definition I'll use for today. And if that changes as we go through the deck, then so be it. So, Hierophant. Okay, next. Six of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles is about giving and receiving, usually. And you know what's kind of funny? We were just talking about how temperance, we usually don't like for that to, I don't usually like to use the word balance to describe it, but she's literally holding the Libra scales in this card. So there's a little hint for us, a little Easter egg for us to unpack. And we see all of these people with their stretched out hands, and like we said, our Cunty Kuntress, Six of Pentacles, is like tossing everybody some coins. Maybe the implication is that she's being fair and just in how she's distributing resources to everyone. Pentacles do have to do with material resources. It can be money, it can be food, it can be whatever is considered a viable resource or material good that helps us to exist. I don't know. And one of the things about Pentacles that we've said recently in another collective spread was that resources can look like anything. It doesn't just have to be something material. It can also be something emotional. It can also be something relational or something structural. But there are different ways that material as intangible resources can look. Hey, Reed. Good to see you here. So y'all are thinking like faith in government institutions. Yeah, it kind of feels a little bit like that. Reed agrees, definitely political. Deb also says faith. Mm-hmm. So I guess faith in institutions. Oh God, yeah. I mean, obviously, you can't not acknowledge that the election is right around the corner and people are casting their votes. And people are kind of putting a lot of faith in whatever candidate that they are voting on. Even if they know that they're probably not going to get all of their needs met, they are hoping to get something from the person that they're voting for. But there's also a lot of discourse involved around that. I don't necessarily see that in this particular spread at the moment, but I'll circle back to that thought. But Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving. And there's always the question with the Six of Pentacles, like, do you identify more with the person who's doing the giving and who kind of has the power to provide for everyone else? Or do you identify more with the people who have their hands stretched out, kind of begging and pleading for whatever the resources are that they need? So there's that. And then our last card in the spread, Three of Wands. Three of Wands, I mean, this is our only fire in this situation. So it's kind of like interesting to see this card at the end of the spread. And as we've said about Three of Wands before, this is usually a person invested in some kind of creative project or has some kind of a vision that they're maybe plotting or just starting to initiate or move on. But there's a little bit of decision making needed to like actually initiate the process of creating. And I don't know, something about Three of Wands, at least in this deck, it feels very daydreaming to me. It feels very like imaginative, like sometimes you need a minute to just kind of sit and create the vision that you have before you actually move on it. So maybe there's something about deciding on a vision or deciding on actually feeling decisive rather about what you want and where you want to go next. So there's that. Yeah, struggling with that hard, I know. Gotta at least vote against prison slavery. Smaje says, to me, this spread is talking about how one can prejudge themselves based off of receiving, even when they didn't work for it. Ooh, interesting. and how not having enough will shape your worldview of what's available to you. When you don't have something, it's because it's being gatekept. Who around you has access to gatekept info, money, etc. Um, hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Let me think. So if we're thinking within the frame of temperance, where we're trying to mix together some things that usually wouldn't coalesce very well, um, then the thing that I'm kind of thinking doesn't really go together, or that doesn't really mesh very well, is something to do with the Hierophant. I would guess like the Hierophant and one of these other cards, or maybe it is the combination of all of the cards and it's just not coming clear to me just yet. Because I kind of see what you mean as far as the spread, um, as far as how the spread is kind of set up. But something I was kind of thinking about as I was talking about temperance being like trying to combine all of these elements that don't go together is like how Kamala keeps talking about, um, she wants to like reach across the aisle and she's trying to like appeal to as many people as possible. And um, how she wants like a Republican in her cabinet and like just all of the stuff that has basically all the liberals and Democrats being like, girl, what the fuck is you talking about? Why are you reaching across the aisle? Like, these people want to kill us, but also you guilty of some stuff as well. So if I'm just using that as an example, and like if you think about that literally being her Libra ass in this card, we kind of said that too. She keeps using the word consensus, which is interesting with the Libra scales. Yeah, she actually just entered a Mercury perfection, and she has Mercury in Libra with the Sun in the fifth house. So um, she's definitely doing a lot of both sidesing and trying to see things down the middle and trying to appeal to as many people as possible. Um, which is, I think, traditionally what politics is supposed to be about. Is like, um, and I'm saying this from just as a caveat. I'm not speaking from a leftist perspective at this moment. I'm just speaking in terms of like this is the system that exists and these are the things that are happening. Like being very Gemini about it, just talking about the situation as it is and not my personal opinion of what I think it should be. But these cards are speaking about something in this present moment, right? Like there's something to be said about bringing together all of these different ideas, all of these different perspectives, all of these different beliefs, or maybe even traditions, that whether we do it in a systemic perspective or not, we still will have to find a way as people to work together and to consider as many people's needs as possible, I guess, or I don't know, consider consensus, balance, scales. Hold on, let me get a little bit more insight on Six of Pentacles real quick. Because there's something in that I'm missing. The Charity card. It's a card of haves and have-nots, but it's also a card about generosity. A bougie woman rains down coins on some outstretched hands. Are you in a stable enough place to extend help to others? Be generous. Do you identify with the outstretched hands? Accept help without self-judgment. So that is a little bit about what Samantha was saying earlier, judging yourself about being in need. We live in an unfair world. Wealth is not equitably, this just got real loud. Wealth is not equitably distributed, and much of our self-worth is tied up in what we have and our ability to earn. Look at the scales. The Six of Pentacles urges you to consider how you can bring balance. If you are financially fortunate, how can you give back? If you require assistance, is stubbornness stopping you from accepting it? Often we can conceptually accept that our economic standing is mostly a product of systematic circumstance, but we are still selfish with good fortune or embarrassed to accept aid. It is worth noting that the pinnacles here do not just stand for any gift of value, not just money. They could stand for a job referral, hand-me-downs, hospitality, or donated time. The Six of Pentacles urges you to give and receive freely without judgment or shame. So what does that mean then if this is our obstacle? Like, if this is our obstacle, and Three of Wands is supposed to help us, I guess, integrate all of these like differing beliefs or differing traditions or differing systems of authority or institutions or whatever it is. Like, what is it that we're actually trying to combine? Is it visions for the future? I'm resisting this because it feels like the same thing that we've been talking about with Venus and Scorpio of like, everybody has different needs. Everybody's coming from a different background. Everyone's coming from a different emotional background and perspective. And like, there's also this larger shared struggle that we're all experiencing, even though we're all experiencing the shared struggle differently. It's also making me think about like the issue we're having right now with food regulations and like recalls. I don't know where this is coming from, but it's making me think about like, that is definitely a unifying struggle that we're all experiencing right now. Is everything keeps getting recalled because the government is literally not doing its job. And this is kind of making me think about how the rich and like kind of the wealthy elite and those people are somewhat, they're not exactly shielded from, you know, things like pandemics and things like recalls if we're all kind of drinking from the same well, so to speak. They're not exempt, basically, especially like H5N1, by the way, bird flu, is now looking pretty human to human transmissible. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, as long as we all breathe the same air. As long as we all breathe the same air, we're all still impacted by each other's struggles. So there's something about that and something about Three of Wands that's kind of like, okay, so what do y'all think about this? So the institutions are kind of the thing. They're not kind of. The institution is the thing that's keeping us all from being able to see each other right now. And all of the beliefs that you might have with a particular political party or political stance or religious stance or whatever stance it is, like your belief systems, that's the main thing that I think is keeping all of us from being able to see each other in our struggles and to see these as collective struggles, right? I'm not saying anything new, but the vision is kind of like, if we can, for our collective survival, actually see the unifying issues and come to some kind of consensus about how, you know, we can sit and argue about these more like identity specific things, like and I'm not saying this to minimize, but like we can sit and argue about you know, abortion rights, we can argue about trans rights, we can argue about anti-blackness, we can argue about all of these different identity things that are relevant and that are real, but that still kind of end up dividing us because you kind of have to, you don't have to, but a lot of times the person who holds the identity that's being under attack feels the need to kind of take up the most space to have their issues validated, or at the very least to have their issues be decentered from like being attacked basically by legislation. But then these larger issues like climate disaster, food regulations, air quality regulations, global pandemics, like these big unifying struggles, If we could shift more of our attention to those issues, genocide, literally, destabilizing other people's governments, and noticing how doing that stuff over there also impacts us over here, you know, kind of coming together on all of these shared struggles and um, seeing how those are the things that really would bring us together right now, even across party lines. It's kind of annoying, but like the vision is making me think of the vision of the Three of Wands in this case, and like these things that seem like they don't go together is like all of us really need to get on the same page about what the yeah, in the Wands card, she can see the horizon envisioning. Yeah, it's like we can get stuck on these individual issues that are very immediate and like short-term needs, like we need this shit resolved now. Um, or not, that's not what I mean. We can get bogged down on these things that are kind of like these arbitrary, heady issues, or we can focus on the things that are immediate, urgent issues, like these larger, broader, kind of global issues that would unify us in a different way. And so instead of leaning too far into just one particular issue that's relevant to our individual identities, how do we, maybe without relying on the government or the, you can't really do it without relying on the government is the problem. We need the government to function for us, you know, like regardless of if it's imperialism or capitalism or whatever the system is that we exist in, like we're always going to exist in a system because that's what it is to be human. Humans need to exist in systems and create structures of coexisting that are suitable for everyone involved, even though we all have different beliefs and different ideas about how the world should work. And that's kind of what this is making me think about too, is if this is kind of representing Libra, like um Libra is not about one person getting what they need and everybody else needs to kind of get what this person needs because this person has the most power. Libra is like, okay, I know that you need this and I need this and you need this, and some of these needs are in conflict with each other. What is the common denominator between all of us that will allow us to um, move in a way that is still collaborative and considerate of one another? Without like stepping on each other's toes or without excluding one particular thing. And so it really feels like a call to focus on the bigger issues more than these like kind of infighting type issues that we're having right now. And it does make me wonder, like with temperance, how do we actually do that? How do we actually do that in a way that is oddly enough kind of working with the system that exists? I don't like that, but it, you know, it feels very Capricorn to me. It feels very Capricorn to me. We need unity and to be united with a leader who can also unify and lead by example. I do think that's true. I think it feels threatening after all that we've been through, the idea that we could be unified, or even that we would want to quote, reach across the aisle and work with people who want us dead. So I don't know that I necessarily think that's the case, but I do think in a way, maybe appealing to the most reasonable of all of these different groups instead of appealing to all of the people on the extremes. It's like the people who are a little bit more in the middle and a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more kind of willing to give something up are going to be easier to work with towards the larger vision than people who are on the extremes. And it's not to say that people on the extremes shouldn't exist. In fact, I think they also play a very important role in like kind of keeping us keeping us grounded or keeping us I don't know, you need the polarities and the extremes to kind of hold up a mirror to like the shadows of how things can be, right? Because you go too far, like we always say about opposites and oppositions, you go too far in either direction, you're gonna end up at the same place eventually anyway. So not to use the word moderate in the political sense, but just in general, like trying to find the things that are more appealing to both sides, just like temporarily, to get us kind of out of the hole that we've done this far, to like get us out of the division and the polarity and the polarization, I guess. So that we can start to envision something moving forward. Because it just feels like as long as we're polarized, we're just going to keep going in circles. As long as we're polarized, we're just going to keep getting stuck, or we're going to pendulum swing from one end to the other, and somebody's always going to be well, not someone's always going to be, but we'll always be distracted from the larger issues that need to be taken care of. So I wonder well, now I want to ask a different question. Now I kind of want to ask the cards a different question, because like, where are we going? You know, that's what this card is making me think of too, because I don't know that Three of Wands actually knows where it's going. I think they just have a vision, and it's kind of like, however you get there is however you get there. Let me look. Am I making sense? Like, is this kind of landing? It feels like a message I don't want to hear, but we did say that about this deck. We did say this about this deck before we started. So, Three of Wands. The Intern. Three of Wands is here to tell you that you are on the right track to where you want to be. I think of this card like an intern working hard towards the career of her dreams. She's not exactly sure where she wants to be yet, but she knows she's on the right path. She looks out at the sea of opportunity from a high vantage point, where she has a good view of upcoming challenges and possibilities. While the Two of Wands suggests you are preparing to leave the nest, the Three comes to you when your flight is well underway. Maggie Stiefeter, I don't know how to say her name, described the Three of Wands in a way that really stuck with me. It's not a ferocious flame that needs to be tamed. It's a campfire that requires your attention in order to persist. Threes are always about interaction and communication with others. At this point in your path, you will benefit from community. Take advantage of opportunities and be prepared to keep moving. You have not reached your final destination, but you are on the right road. So, the cards have kind of spoken. I think what we need to be doing right now is maybe not, well, I don't know, maybe we do actually need to be having conversations. You know what? That actually does remind me. Something I saw Nadine post earlier was like, she was specifically talking about like leftists, or people, you know, more on these, just on the left in general, liberals and leftists, and how like a lot of the infighting is like people thinking that they know more than somebody else, or that they're more educated than somebody else, or whatever, on like the reality of the situation. And so there's a lot of talking down on each other, and there's a lot of talking at each other instead of actually being in conversation with one another and trying to understand where somebody is coming from. Because as much as we're feeling inclined to differentiate each other because of the stakes being as high as they are and not wanting to align with each other, there's still like, we still have to function in society together somehow. You know, we still have to figure out a way to get organized, and we're not going to get organized if we're always calling each other stupid and ridiculous and not acknowledging, or even like trying to just understand why people think the way that they do. You know, what have they experienced? What have they been through that makes them feel so strongly about this particular belief they have? And like, is there some validity to that, that even though I'm not experiencing it, I can put myself in their shoes, Libra again, and kind of understand what their struggle is and where they're coming from, and see how there's a sweet spot between the way that you think and the way that I think, that we actually want the same thing. Because I'll be honest, this is very controversial, but like with the whole like anti-vax situation that's happening right now, this is like one of the most obvious ones to me, because between like COVID strict cautious people and then like anti-vaxxer COVID denialists, everybody is noticing that people are dropping dead left and right. Like both of these groups notice that there is something wrong with the public health system. There is something wrong with corporations getting involved in public health. There's something wrong with the medications and prescriptions and all of these things, the ways that they're being just kind of thrown at people without like a holistic consideration of all of their illnesses. Um, they're both kind of recognizing that just getting vaccinated is not going to solve all of the problems. There are other things that you need to do. Like there are actually a lot of commonalities between these two very polarized groups. It's just a matter of what one group thinks is happening and is the cause, and what the other group thinks is happening and is the cause. So does that mean that both groups are wrong? Does it mean that both groups are right? Does it mean that both of them are ridiculous and, you know, whatever? Because that's kind of the thing about conspiracies, is that a lot of them start, and a lot of like grifters as well, what they're really good at doing is using just enough or recognizing just enough of something that is real and that is occurring, but then manipulating it in their favor in order to sell you something or to get you on their side or whatever it is, that then kind of takes it out of the reality of the situation. But at the end of the day, everybody, at the end of the day got to end. At the end of the day, everybody is kind of noticing and trying to point at the same thing. It's just their reason why the thing is occurring is different. Another thing that I see with that is also with food stuff. I listen to the Conspirituality podcast where they talk about a lot of these kind of alternative health grifter type people, spirituality type people, you know, like granola people and almond moms, and another subsect of anti-vax people who rely more on natural medications and supplements and things, and are very like anti big pharma, right? So like there's that group of people exist, and those are kind of like the RFK people, who would have voted for Robert Kennedy Jr. And they have a group called like Make America Healthy Again, which again is very much cloaked in whiteness. Cloaked in whiteness? I don't know. Very much like about white people with money having more access to healthy foods and health supplements and whatever, like in that sense, and not so much looking at systemic issues. And it's like they're spending all of this time, rightfully so, calling out corporations for putting, you know, poisonous things in our food system and food supply, and all of these other very sneaky ways that these larger corporate industries are harming us. And they're wanting to do something about it and wanting to regulate or deregulate, or I don't remember exactly what their plan is, but they want to do something about these larger institutions as well. So they definitely see that there's a problem there. But the way that they're going about it is very much eugenicist and white supremacist. So it's like, you guys are like almost there. You're almost there in a way that everybody could get on board with, but then y'all have to go down this route that's very much mirroring Nazi Germany. Like, you don't have to do all that, but here you are. And so there's that subset of people, but again, they're not completely wrong. You know, they're still recognizing something that is affecting all of us. It's just they're taking it too fucking far. And dare I say it, vanilla coated granola is hilarious. Exactly. Dare I say it, like even people on the far left, on the far left, our beloved leftists, I think even we take things too far. You know, like we do take things too far to the point where we are scrutinizing and critical of everything all the time, to the point that we don't acknowledge how much progress we've made in certain areas, or we don't want to acknowledge some of the good work that people are doing within the systems that exist, purely because the systems exist and we have to reckon with them. And that is a problem that I have with leftists a lot of time. As much as I don't want to exist in capitalism, as much as I don't want to exist in imperialism and so on and so forth, like the things are here, and we still, like, as long as we're all as polarized as we are, we're not coming together overnight to destroy all of these things. It's not that I don't think that we could, but like it's literally not happening. We can't get organized for some reason. So it's like at some point it becomes counterproductive to keep nitpicking all of these things when a lot of other people don't even know the context that you're speaking from, and why you think that way in the larger arc of history. Like, yes, people need to read, people need to learn, people need to get informed, but also like people are in urgent situations right now that they can't even think beyond the next couple of days because they don't know where their next paycheck is coming from or their next meal is coming from or their next like whatever it is. They got to wake up in the morning and get the kids to school and get to work and sit in traffic for 5 hours. Like, people are living in the conditions and don't have time to get as educated and knowledgeable as a lot of the other rest of us do. And even if you're in that situation and you're somehow finding the means to do it, doesn't mean that everyone else is doing that too. It doesn't mean that you're wrong and should shut up and not say anything. But it's like, we lack patience. All of us lack patience for each other at this point, and I get it because all of our nervous systems are fucking fried from constant ongoing trauma. But like, we're just going to keep spinning in circles if we just keep kind of hunkering down. You know what's funny? Behind Temperance is also this card, Four of Pentacles, which is very like self-protective and very much like, look, I'm not bending on this thing. Like, this is my hard line and I'm not deviating from it. It's like, I understand, and in fact, I agree with you, but also, what are we going to do about the issues that are immediately right in front of us that we can do something about, that we can have some kind of influence over, or that we can exercise some kind of power? And I feel like we keep coming back to that, and it's just like, not enough. You know, it feels like it's not enough, and it's not enough, to be honest. Like, it's not enough. And I think we should keep that fire. We should keep that energy of, again, striving towards the thing in the future that we actually want, that actually brings all of us together, that actually solves these larger issues, so then we can all finally like fuck off and go our separate ways and do our own thing. But there is just a big question of like, what will it take? And I think the thing about it too is that the structures are collapsing. You know, like, they're already malfunctioning in ways that we can visibly see. But I don't know. I tend to feel like, how do we at the very least prevent like all out chaos and like the purge? You know, that's kind of how I'm starting to think sometimes, because it's like, a lot of these problems, there are so many different big, powerful influences involved. And regardless, like, we're going to have to sacrifice something to get where we want to go. And maybe that's part of this too. Like, with the Six of Pentacles leading into Three of Wands, like, we're going to have to sacrifice something or give something up in order to get where we want to go. But like, maybe the things that we're giving up we're not all giving up the same thing. We're all giving up different amounts of different things that each of us has access to in order to move this shit forward. But I don't know. It feels all over the place, but ultimately, yeah, it is kind of like, we don't have to like it, but we do need to at least make one collective decision. Sometimes just to know that we can make a collective decision in the first place, because then we can build off of that momentum and go somewhere else. So I don't know. I know I'm only speaking to my teeny tiny corner of the internet, all 7 of you that are live right now, listening and engaging. But it's why I do a lot of the relationship work that I do. Like, is to be able to exist on Twitter and hear all of everybody's trash takes that I don't agree with and not get like riled up about it, you know, to still kind of be able to hang out in my happy medium regulated nervous system state, and hear what they're saying and see how they think and kind of get inside of their heads a little bit and see like, interesting logic you have there. I don't feel that way, but interesting that you do. And then to kind of move on. It's like considering it for a moment just to see how people think, and then whenever something outrageous is happening later, I already have like a reference point or a frame of mind that kind of says, oh, okay, this is why people think this makes sense. This is why people think this is a good idea. So yeah, because I think another part of this too, yeah, exactly. Compromise is necessary with all people. Um, it's like it's kind of like when you're at a job, like whatever official job that you have, and they discourage people. They discourage people from talking about politics in the office because chances are you're probably working with some people who have some horrendous beliefs compared to yours, and somehow y'all still get that job done every day. Somehow y'all still find a way to get on Microsoft Teams or whatever it is y'all be doing, Slack, and working through whatever project issue. And I don't know what y'all be doing, but it's the same thing with coaching. They tell us in coaching, and like you never know what kind of clients you're going to get. And I mean, of course, you can curate your audience to fit you and your beliefs if that's what you want to do. And also, there's a real skill and kind of value that you can get from working with people who are nothing like you. And there's a lot of value and a lot of skill in working with people who are nothing like you, and to still reach some kind of agreement or compromise or find some way to work together towards a common goal. And maybe that's what this Three of Wands really is about. Because they did say threes are usually about community and relationships in some kind of a way. And in this case, we did say working towards a vision or working towards a common goal. So it just makes me wonder what it would be like for all of us to find one issue that all of us feel the same way about, regardless of the why we think it's happening, even though the why we think it's happening is inevitable and is going to be important, especially moving forward with more mutable transits over the next 3 years, Saturn and Pisces. But it's like if we could just get everybody on the same page about one collective issue and focus on the solution to the issue more than the why we think the issue. Well, we can't really do that. We can't separate the context. Can't separate the context from the solution, but I don't know. Y'all get what I'm saying. It would be nice to have some kind of unity and collaboration over one particular need. And maybe with this Mars retrograde in Cancer, it really is going to be like food regulations first. I think that would be really cool to see. Ironically, both presidential candidates, I think, have. No, they don't have both have Mars and Cancer. I thought Trump had Mars and Cancer, but he doesn't. Kamala has Mars and Cancer. But it would be cool if we could at least start there, because that does seem like something that, you know, it's kind of hard to get in the weeds about differing beliefs about the food supply. We all just have to eat. We all have to eat. We're probably all going to go to the same restaurants. I mean, unless we're boycotting, which, you know, that's happening anyway. But a lot of times, it doesn't matter what political beliefs you have, you're probably going to eat at the same restaurant, shop at the same grocery store. You know, all having to get the food from the same supply, since we're not all subsisting off of our own farms and land. So maybe that's the thing. I do have my eye on Cancer transits moving forward, because yeah, a lot of these recalls did start with Mars and Cancer, like Mars late degrees Gemini, early Cancer, and then next year we have a Mercury retrograde in Cancer, as well as Jupiter is going to station direct at 0 degrees Cancer for like a month next fall, I believe. And then we'll have Jupiter in Cancer in a trine with reception to Saturn and Pisces in 2026. And the other thing being that Jupiter is going to move through Gemini, which is it's going to move through all of Gemini, which means everything that we just experienced with Mars in Gemini, and then what will happen through some of the retrograde as well, is going to come back up with Jupiter in Gemini. So maybe it is food. Maybe food is where we start, and then we go from there, realizing that, okay, maybe these people were right about this and these people were right about this, so they're not wrong about everything. Maybe that's some of the mutable madness stuff that we have going on next year as well, because child, Mars in Virgo, Jupiter in Gemini, and Saturn in Pisces. shoot me now. I don't want to go, but it's real. So I don't know. Um, interesting place to go with this spread. Um, or interesting place that we went with the spread, but definitely feels like an unpopular truth that I don't know. I do need to come on here and read the ladies' chart before election day because I did read the guys' chart and I hated every second of it. I don't really want to spend too much time in their energy, but I do need to read her chart and her solar return stuff just to show y'all kind of what I'm seeing as well. Because ever since before even Joe stepped down and we were just looking at the transits for the year and kind of saw that she would probably replace him. And then I was looking at her just birth chart and it was like, she's going to do a lot of shit that everyone doesn't like as much as she's going to try to please everybody. But if she does win, like, it may not be the worst thing, but it might. I don't want to go on the record and say that and be wrong, but you just never know. So anyways, we'll revisit that maybe on Sunday. I might go live again tomorrow just because I didn't yesterday. It's depending on my energy. But yeah. So if you missed it, our spread for tonight was Temperance on the bottom. We had the Hierophant, Six of Pentacles, and Three of Wands. And the spread was basically Temperance as the context, Hierophant as the situation, Six of Pentacles as the obstacle, Three of Wands as the solution, in a sense. And we talked a little bit about what Samaje said earlier was prejudging yourself based off of receiving even whenever you didn't work for it, and how not having enough will shape your worldview of what's available to you when you don't have something because it's being gatekept. Who around you has access to gatekept info and money? You know, we didn't talk about that exactly, but I do think it still fits in the conversation that we had because this is also true. Like, literally, people having the beliefs that they have because of what they don't have access to, and what's being gatekept or what they believe is being gatekept from them. So that still hit. That still hit, friend. Thank you. That still applies. But yeah, we talked about how having, I guess, like wrapping it up, we talked about how having differing beliefs, or let me start over, how with Temperance, this is about bringing together things that seemingly don't go together. Hierophant is usually making that be beliefs or politics or religious beliefs or structures or systems or whatever it is, authority figures being the thing in question that are a bunch of different pieces that don't go together. Six of Pentacles being the person in a position of power versus the people with their hands stretched out, trying to find balance between giving and receiving, and what we have to offer versus what we need from other people. And Three of Wands being the vision of how we all move forward together towards a common goal or a common vision. So I think that worked out. You know, they had me there in the first half, but I think that actually came together quite nice. To really be stretching my brain to use these cards and talk about stuff, but this is why I use astrology as well. Amissa says, I'm backing away from leftist organizing spaces because of the ideological rigidity you're talking about here, and how the people who have read the most believe they're the ones who know the most. Yeah, and it's like, again, like really standing firm on people on the extremes of either end still need to exist, because I think they do offer something in terms of like kind of showing us maybe what the limits are or what the boundaries are of how far you can take something. And then it allows you to see the benefits and the drawbacks of going to the extreme and then moving a little bit more towards, if it's not even the center, because again, Temperance is still not about balance. It's about how much of this thing do we need and how much of this thing do we need to make all of these things come together in a way that's harmonious and equitable in a sense. So yeah, it's like we still need the extremes to exist, like almost as a reference point and as a place to kind of to move from in a sense. I can't believe I'm neurodivergent and begging other leftists to be less rigid and concrete. Yeah, for sure. Need to think more on the spread. Yeah, think some more on the spread. I would invite that. Cool. Well, that was fun. That was an adventure. That was an adventure that actually challenged me to talk about some things I've been wanting to talk about, but too scared to talk about. And without getting on like a soapbox, preachy, overzealous place, self-righteous place about it. But yeah, I am curious about where this is all going. Maybe I'll pull a spread one day about what lies ahead. So yeah. Well, thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for participating in the chat as always, and for contributing your opinions and your commentary. It always helps me to stay engaged with the conversation and to not get too lost in my own mind. So I appreciate y'all for that. If you haven't already, again, please like the video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to get updates about whenever I schedule a live, whether it is 30 minutes before the live or 3 hours before the live. And if you are watching this later and you stay for the whole thing, thank you so much for joining us for the ride. And I hope to see you on here live one day. This has been your daily live with Mixed Mercury, the Astro Himbo. I will talk to you all again very soon. Have a great night. Bye.